The best adventure is one you are completely terrified of. I was pushed to the end of my comfort zone, and even a bit outside of it. Language barriers, altitude sickness, and independence fueled my fears, but somehow it turned out to be the best 2 months of my life. Afterwards, I realized just how much I grew and how independent I had become. Cusco, Peru was the location of this adventure with a few excursions across the country. I stayed with a host family who didn't speak a lick of English. Thankfully, I had a few roommates to help carry the conversation and extinguish my fears. Coca Tea was the overall savior, rescuing me from crippling altitude sickness as Cusco's elevation was 11,152 feet. After a week in Cusco, it was time for an excursion. Puno is home to Lake Titicaca, the world's highest body of water. We got to see man-made islands of reeds and climb to the top of a mountain just before sunset. The climb to the top was by far the most difficult walk I have ever had. Every 10 steps I had to stop for air, but the sunset at the end was worth it. That evening, we were invited to a party by the locals of the island. They dressed us up in their traditional party wear, which was thick, heavy, and warm, perfect for the freezing lake breeze. The next morning, we were shown how to fish for our own lunch and cook potatoes underground. There are over 4,000 varieties of potatoes grown in Peru, and we only got to try 15. During the week, I spent my time in the pharmacy and helping with checkup physician visits. Comparatively to the U.S., Peruvian healthcare is cheaper, free for most people, but less advanced. Patients carry around their own medical history and file folders, and sanitization is limited between each patient visit. I love being able to compare the U.S. to Peru and how to improve both sides. The second weekend, we traveled to the famous Machu Picchu. It took my breath away both figuratively and literally. We learned that the mountain Machu Picchu is not the mountain the village sits on top of, but actually the mountain casting a shadow behind it. Standing on top of the clouds, repeatedly taking on and off my raincoat made me feel surreal. It was pure beauty and wonder. Aguas Calientes, the city beneath Machu Picchu, has many trails and shops to lose yourself in. We decided to follow a path that ended up at a waterfall. The path was amazing, standing underneath mountains in the middle of the jungle. We even found a dog that followed us through the jungle and loved being pet. The waterfall was freezing, but it was gorgeous. In between climbing mountains, I was also taking a class and blogging about my experience at the clinic. I love finding local coffee shops down Main Street and just lose myself in what I had learned so far. I would order a fancy latte and enjoy my little time in the cafes. I was impressed at how comfortable I became while ordering a coffee in Spanish by myself. The third weekend, we traveled to the Amazon. We boarded a boat and traveled down the river about an hour away from modern society. Finally, we reached a stretch of land that we would call home for the next weekend. I am personally terrified of spiders and bugs, so staying in a cabin with screens for windows sounded like torture. My bed even had a bug net hanging over it, and I used bug spray like it was a second skin. That first day, we took a slight boat ride to Monkey Island. It had tons of monkeys that ran out of the woods towards us. I was able to feed them oranges, even though they were very aggressive. One monkey even climbed up my leg for a slice. Later that night, we took a nighttime Amazon River tour. We searched for caiman, which is a type of mini alligator. We even got to hold one. The next morning, we woke up at 4 a.m. to go on a jungle trek. We put on knee-high mud boots and made our way to a lake about 5 miles from our campsite. We saw wild macaws, monkeys, and river otters. Once we reached the lake, we got in canoes and paddled our way to picnic lunch. I kept my eyes peeled for an anaconda, but unfortunately, we couldn't find one. Later that night, the group decided to go on a spider hunt. Why would I voluntarily search for tarantulas? Well, it's because I came here to get out of my comfort zone. In the end, I decided to tag along, but not without full body protection and my flashlight. We had found 0 tarantulas in the jungle, but we did find them scattered around the trees right outside our cabins. Click the video. The next morning, we woke up bright and early to go ziplining in the jungle. Going along with the story of fears, I am also deathly afraid of heights. So of course I tagged along. I had the time of my life and never let go of the tree or the nearest lying to me. Back to the weekdays, my roommates and I decided to do some more touristy things in Cusco. We visited the Chocolate Museum and got to create our own chocolates. We also thought it would be fun to do a wine and painting excursion in the mountains. It was a beautiful and remarkable experience. I was pretty proud of my masterpiece. My favorite part of the trip was when my family came to see me. I got to show them how breathtaking the trip I was on and how much I had grown. My mom was impressed I could even hail a cab, get to them to take me wherever I wanted to go in Spanish. I was able to negotiate a day-long tour of Sacred Valley and my family called me their little tour guide. Family time in Cusco was me showing my family around the shops, restaurants, and streets. I taught my mom how to say no gracias to all the street vendors. My sister thought I was a lifesaver when I introduced her to coca tea to help her with her altitude sickness. Overall, my parents and siblings got to experience a never-forgettable vacation with their best tour guide. I then returned to my classmates for a Sacred Valley excursion. We stopped to pet and feed llamas on our way to the first round of ruins. We climbed to the top of Ollantaytambo, some 200 steps to take in the beauty of Sacred Valley. At this point in my trip, the 200 steps didn't faze me. I just wanted to see the top and experience every minute of Peru. My last weekend in Cusco was by far the hardest. I climbed to the top of Rainbow Mountain. I climbed to an altitude of 17,000 feet, and for reference, hiking above 18,000 feet requires special breathing gear. It was by far the most difficult task I had ever completed. I felt like my lungs were exploding and burning. But again, the view at the top was worth it. Even though my experience at Cusco had ended, I wasn't over with Peru just yet. I made a brave decision to spend a day in Lima by myself. I did some research on what to do and how to do it safely. Mostly it was me just walking along the shoreline and taking pictures. I even got to see a cat park full of stray cats. In the end, I ate dinner by myself along the shore and had a fun day to myself. Overall, my study abroad experience in Cusco would be unforgettable. I came back a different person who grew out of her comfort zone. I can be on my own and feel scared without it getting in the way of what I want to accomplish. I had the best adventure and was able to give back to the community who hosted me by donating books and toys to the clinic I volunteered with. I can't wait to go back to my little adventure. Overall, my study abroad experience in Cusco would be unforgettable. I came back a different person who grew out of her comfort zone. I can be on my own and feel scared without it getting in the way of what I want to accomplish. I had the best adventure, and I can't wait to go back.